Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing absolutely great. Myself Kittu Patel, and today in this video we are going to deep dive into the AHB protocol, one of the most important bus protocol in the AMBA family. Okay, now this entire AHB module is going to be a complete series that is divided into a 5 part. In first 3 video, we will understand the theoretical concept of your AHB in very detailed and easy to grasp way. Whereas in the remaining 2 videos, we will actually implement the complete test bench for your AHB using UVM. Yes, you heard it right. We are going to implement the entire test bench using UVM. Okay, just tighten your seatbelt and join me on this amazing adventurous learning journey. But before we start, if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. It is absolutely free, but trust me, it will aid knowledge worth 1,000 to your career. Alright then, let's not waste more time. Let's jump straight into the video. And if you have any query, you can contact me on this number, or you can also drop a mail on this mail ID. Okay? Now see, before starting AHB protocol, so first of all let us understand what does it mean by the protocol. So you can see this. So see, protocol is nothing but it is just a set of rules that decide how your two devices talk to each other. So let me show you. So suppose here you have one device and here you have one device. Now I want to establish a communication between these two devices. So how can these two devices will communicate? So in order to establish a communication between these two devices, some rules are there, and that rules is nothing but your protocol. Okay, so in order to establish a communication, we have certain rule, and that is nothing but your protocol. Okay, I hope it is clear. See, it is very simple. If you want to establish a communication between these two devices, so there is some rule which you have to follow in order to establish a communication between these two devices, and that rule is nothing but your protocol. Okay, now see, it is like a language both sides agree on before communicating. Okay, now if you can see the example where our human language follow rules like English grammar to understand each other, you're similarly like that computers and chip follow protocols in order to send and receive data correctly. Okay, now we have two type of protocol. One is on chip protocol and the another one is peripheral protocol. So see, let us understand first of all what is on chip protocol. So suppose you have one SoC. So we have one SoC, and inside this SoC we have multiple IPs, or in simple term you can say that we have multiple device inside this system on chip, or you can say SoC. Okay, now I want to establish a communication inside this SoC. So suppose this is your device A and this is your device B, and they want to establish a communication between them. Let's say your device A want to transfer some data to your device B. So that is nothing but this device is trying to establish a communication with this device. So we have to follow some rule, and that rule is nothing but your protocol. Since it is going inside your chip or inside this SoC, so that's why it is called on-chip protocol. Okay, so this is your on-chip protocol. Now let's suppose we have one device here and we want to pass the data to an outer peripheral, or you can say external peripheral. So suppose this is your device and I want to establish a communication with some external peripherals or external device. So in such case you can use some peripheral protocol. So we have different types of on-chip protocol as well as we have different types of peripheral protocol. Okay, so here you can see the meaning of on-chip protocol. Here you can use inside a chip. Like I have already mentioned that here you have one SoC, and inside this SoC you have multiple IPs, that is intellectual property. And if you want to establish a communication between these two IP, so you have to follow certain rules. So that rule is nothing but on-chip protocol. Okay, whereas in peripheral protocol, here you are connecting the chip to some external device, or you can say you are connecting your device with some external device. So that is nothing but your peripheral protocol. Okay, I hope it is clear. Now see, with respect to speed, since in on-chip protocol all the data communication has been happen inside the chip, so here the speed is very high. Whereas in peripheral protocol, here you are establishing a communication with some external device, so that's why here the speed is slower as compared to your on-chip protocol. Okay. Now some of the examples of on-chip protocols are AXI, AHB and APB. We are going to cover all these three on-chip protocol. We already have covered APB. So if you have not watched that APB protocol session yet, so at the end of the video, I will attach the video link for this APB, so you can go through that. And in future video, we are also going to cover AXI. And the peripheral protocol which we have, that is your I2C, serial peripheral interface, and then we have UART, and then we have USB. Okay, so these all are the peripheral protocol. Now when you compare with the data distance, so here inside this on chip protocol your data travel very short distance, but whereas in peripheral protocol your data travel to a longer distance. Okay, because here you are establishing a communication with some external device, so that's why your data travels longer distance. Okay, I hope it is clear. Now see, now let's understand what is AHB protocol. So this video is all about the AHB protocol only, so we have to understand each thing in detail about the AHB protocol. So first of all, AHB is a bus interface suitable for high performance synthesizable device. That means here your AHB is suitable for high performance synthesizable device, or you can say that here high bandwidth devices are there, in between them we are establishing a communication. Now in AHB we have some terms that we have to understand. First one we have managers, the second one we have interconnect, and the third one we have subordinates. So let us understand each one in detail. Now let us understand what does it mean by the manager, subordinates and interconnect. Let us take a simple analogy to understand this. So suppose this is the person A whose name is Rahul, and this is the person B whose name is Simran. Okay, so now see, now Rahul want to establish a communication with Simran. Okay, so here Rahul want to establish a communication with Simran, so he sent some request, so he is initiating the communication. So here Rahul is treated as an master, or you can say that manager. Okay, so here Rahul is treated as an master or manager, and Simran has to respond for that request. So Simran is considered as an subordinate, and or you can say slave. Okay, so see, in simple terms we have master and slave, or you can say we have manager and subordinates. So whenever someone is initiating the request or initiating the transfer, that is considered as a manager, and if someone is responding to that particular transfer, so that is considered as a subordinate. So here you can see a manager provide address and control information to initiate read and write operation. Okay, so here the device who is initiating the transfer, that is considered as a manager, whereas the device who is fulfilling that transfer is considered as a subordinate, or the device who is responding to that particular transfer is considered as a subordinate. Okay, so here you can see in subordinate, a subordinate respond to transfer initiated by manager in the system. Okay, now the third one which we have is interconnect. See, in our AHB protocol we are not going to discuss much more about the interconnect, because we are going to consider the single master and single slave. But let me give you the idea about the interconnect. So whenever you have multiple master, so in order to select which master should initiate the request first, we are using this interconnect, which provide us the arbitration from where we can select which master should initiate the transfer with your slave. Okay, so that is the use of your interconnects. Now let us understand the features which was available with your AHB protocol. So AHB implements the feature required for high performance, high clock frequency system, including single clock edge operation. So here you can see what does it mean by the single clockage operation? So here we have one single clock. Your all the operation here in AHB protocol depends on this clock, or you can say all the operation depends on the rising edge of clock, or you can say that positive edge of clock. Okay, so the operation which you are performing, either writing or reading from the slave, so all the operation should be done on the positive edge of your clock. Okay, now the another thing which we have is burst transfer. So what does it mean by the burst transfer? So let's suppose if we have to transfer multiple bits in a single transaction. So what does it mean by the multiple bits? So let's suppose this is your master and this is your slave. Okay, or this is your manager and this is your subordinate. Now from this master I want to pass 4 packets or 2 packets, let's say. So this P1 and P2. So this burst transfer, like multiple transfer, we can done in single transaction, that is supported in your AHB protocol. We are going to discuss in detail about the burst transfer, but for being now you can understand it like this. In a single transaction we can able to pass multiple transfer, that is nothing but your burst transfer. Now your address and data width which was there in your APB protocol is configurable. Okay, so you can configure your address as well as your data bus width. So what does it mean by the bus? So let us understand. So suppose this is your manager and this is your subordinate, and here in order to pass the data, here there is some medium, and this medium is nothing but your bus from where you are passing your data. Okay, now I hope all those features are clear. Let me give you a quick recap about all those features. So first of all, we have single clockage operation. So that means all your read and write operation are going to happen on the positive edge of clock only. Then we have burst transfer. That means in a single transaction we are allowed to pass multiple transfer or multiple packets. The third one which we have is configurable data width and configurable address width. So we can configure our data width, also we can configure our address width in AHB protocol. Okay, I hope it is clear. Now here we have AHB manager. So we have already discussed about the AHB manager, that a manager provide address and control information to initiate read and write operation, or you can understand it like this. The device who is initiating the request is considered as a manager, and the device who is responding to that request is considered as a slave or subordinate. Okay, just like your Rahul is initiating that request, so they considered as a manager, whereas Simran is responding to that request, so she is considered as a subordinate. Okay, now only one manager can control the bus at a time to avoid the conflicts. So that means here if you are establishing a communication, so at a time only one manager can control the bus. So what does it mean? So it means at a time your single master should control the bus in order to transfer the data. Okay, so it is not like that your multiple master is transferring the data on the same bus. At a time the single master can control this bus, and if this master can complete their transfer, so then the handle or control will go to the another master. Okay, I hope it is clear. Now we have subordinate. So subordinate means it responds to the transfer that is initiated by your master, and the subordinate use edge select signal from the decoder to control when it responds to bus transfer. We are going to see it in block diagram, so don't worry about that. Okay, now here you can see, here we are going to discuss all those things, decoder, subordinate. Now see, here you have manager. So see, this is your manager. So that means from manager you are establishing or you are initiating a transfer. Okay, from manager you have passed H address, that is your address, and HW data, that is your data. We have multiple signals, all the signals we are going to see, but here you can understand it like this. Here we have single manager and we have multiple subordinates. So here you can see we have multiple subordinates. Now what happen if you have passed your address, so that address will go into your decoder. Now see, here your subordinates have their individual memory location or individual address. Let's suppose this subordinate support address 0 to 31, this subordinate support address 32 to let's say 63, and this is supporting 64 to 127, let's say. Okay, so we have considered the address. Now let's suppose from here we have passed the address that is 33. Okay, now first of all that address will go into your decoder. Okay, and from this decoder you are going to select in which address we have to pass the data, or at which slave we have to pass the data. So see, here 32 is there in your subordinate 2, or you can say here 33 is there in your subordinate 2. So we can select this slave by asserting a select 2. Now when you have asserted a select 2, so here your a select 1 is 0 and a select 3 is also 0. So that means at a time you have established a communication between one master and one slave. So your master has initiated the transfer and slave 2 is responding to that particular transfer. Okay, I hope it is clear. I have explained in very simple term, but still if you have not recollect any point, then you can comment it. Okay, I will definitely help you in comment also. But see, let me explain it once again. So from this H address, let's suppose you have passed this 33, and here we have marked the address range of this subordinate. So let's suppose your subordinate 1 is supporting 0 to 31, subordinate 2 is supporting 32 to 63, and this is supporting from 64 to 127. Okay, now I want to select a slave where we have address that is 33. So see, here the address 33 is there in your subordinate 2. So from this decoder you are going to select a slave by asserting this select signal. So we have selected this subordinate 2, so your S select 2 should be high and S select 1 and S select 3 should be 0. So that means at a time your single slave has been selected. Okay, it is clear? Okay, now let's jump to the next one. Now see, these are all the signals which we have in your AHB. The signal which you are observing over here, that signal is considered as an input for your master, and the signal which are here is considered as an output signal for your master. So first of all we have reset as well as clock. So both these signal are global signal. That means it is input for your master as well as for your slave. Okay, so here your reset is active low reset. So whenever you are applying reset, so you will reach to your initial or idle state. Okay, and this is H clock, where your each operation are going to synchronize with this H clock. And see, here you can see in all this signal we have H. Okay, so what does it indicate? So here H indicate that this signal is for AHB protocol. In APB we have similar W data, we have similar write. So there we have seen that we have P indication. Okay, so that P indicate that that particular signal is for APB. So here whenever you see H in your signal, so that means this signal is particularly for AHB. Now here you can see we have H ready. So what does it mean by the H ready? So H ready means whenever your slave is ready, so slave will give H ready high. That means slave are ready to complete the transfer. But whenever H ready is 0, so that means right now your slave is busy in some another task, or slave is not ready to complete the transfer. So in that case you have to wait until and unless you are not getting H ready 1 from your slave side. Okay, then we have H response signal, and this signal is driven by your slave only. So that means H response signal indicates that if your complete transfer has been done successfully, so your H response signal should be 0, and if there is some failure in between the transfer, so H response signal should be 1. Okay, we are going to discuss all these signals, so don't worry about that. Now see, we have H address signal. So the slave or subordinate associated with your master in communication, so to select that particular subordinate we are using this H address. Then we have H write signal. So see, H write means H write should be 0 or 1. So whenever your H write is 1, so that means you want to pass your data from the master to your slave. Okay, or you can say you want to perform a write operation. And whenever your H write signal is 0, so that means you want to perform some read operation. Okay, so whenever your H write is 1, so that means you have initiated the transfer and you want to pass the data into your slave. or you want to write the data into your slave, and whenever your h write is 0, so that means you want to read the data from your slave. Then we have h size signal. So see, what does it mean by this h size signal? It is of 3 bit. We are going to discuss it, but here you can understand it like this. Let's suppose this is your little master, this is your little slave. Okay, now from master you have passed one packet. Now the length of the packet you can determine by this h size. Okay, so by using this h size you can identify the length of the packet. Okay, then we have h burst. So h burst means in single transaction how many number of packet you want to pass. See here h prot and h master log, that we are not going to discuss because this right now we are considering only the AHB light protocol. So this is not important one. Then we have h trans. See, both this signal is not so much important, so we are not going to discuss it. And in RTL, if it is there, so we are going to discuss there only. So h trans means how was your transfer type. So there are 4 type of transfer, that is idle, busy, non-sec, and then sec. We are going to discuss it, but here you can say if idle is there, so that means your master is not established any communication with your slave. If your master wants some time, so we can assert this busy state, and for single transfer, or you can say for new transfer, we are going to assert this non-sequence, and for continuous transfer we are going to assert sequence. Okay, now let us understand each signal in detail. Now first of all we have h address. So see, h address is very simple. So let's suppose this is your master and this is your particular slave. So let's say we have s1 and s2, and here your s1 is supporting from address. Here your s1 address is from 0 to 31, and here it is from 32 to let's say 63. Okay, now let's suppose here we have decoder. Here we have one decoder. Now from master we have passed the address, that is let's say 33. Okay, now see, here from decoder we are going to select in which slave we have 33. So here you can see the 33 was there in your slave 2. So your slave 2 will get selected. So here your S select signal should be high, and that S select signal is driven by your decoder, and here your S select signal is low. Okay, so that means you have established a transfer with your slave 2. So here the role of your H address should be there in order to select on which slave you want to establish a transfer or communication. Okay, then we have H write signal. So H write signal indicates that whenever H write signal is high, that means we want to perform a write transfer, and whenever it's low, so we want to perform a read transfer. So suppose this is your master and this is your slave, and this is your manager and this is your subordinate. So let's suppose I want to write some data in your subordinate. So from here I will pass H write as an high, or your H write should be high. Okay, if I want to write some data in your subordinate, so here your H write should be high. But if I want to read some data from your subordinate, so your H write should be 0, or your H write is low. Okay, okay, I hope it is clear. Now next we have S size. So see, S size is nothing but it indicates the size of data transfer. So let's suppose this is your master and this is your subordinates, and from master you have passed some packet. So let's say this is your packet. Now to get the size of your packet, here you can use this S size. So let's suppose your packet size is 2. Okay, 2 byte. So let's suppose here your packet size is 2 byte. So here your S size should be 001, because here you can see for 000 it is single byte, for 001 it is 2 byte, for 010 it is 4 byte. Okay, and for 011 it is 8 byte. Or in simple terms, if you want to calculate the size of your transfer, you can just observe your S size. If your S size is 2, let's suppose. Okay, so here you can see if your S size is 010, so that means 2. So you can just use this formula 2 raised to 2, that means 4. So here your S size is 4 bytes. Okay, so here your packet size is 4 bytes, and let's suppose your S size is 0, 1, 1. So 0, 1, 1 is 3. So 2 raised to 3, that means 8. So here your packet size is of 8 bytes. Okay. So this is how you can get the size of your packet. Now here you can read this note. Transfer size set by the S size must be less than or equal to the width of data bus. So what does it mean by the width of data bus? So let's suppose we have this data bus and width of data bus is 32 bit only, and we are passing 64 bit of data. So how can this data bus can pass this 64 bit of data? Okay, so we have to keep this in mind. Your H size should always be less than or equal to the size of your data bus. Okay, so you can just remember this. Your H size should always be less than or equal to the size of your data bit. Okay, it is clear. Here you can see this an example where your data bit is of 32 bit data bus, where you have 32 bit data bus. So your H size should be either 000, 001 or 010, because for 010 you have 2 raised to 2, that means 4 bytes. But if you are considering 011, so that means 2 raised to 3, 8 byte means 8 into 8, that is 64 bits. So 64 bits here is not possible since your data bus is of 32 bit. Okay, so that's why for here for 32 bit data bus you only have the support of 000, 001 and 010. I hope it is clear. Okay, so see, in simple term you can understand it like this. Here H size is of 3 bit of signal, so their supportable so the possible combination is 000 to 111. If you have 000, that means 2 raised to 0, so you have 1 bytes. Okay, if you have 001, that means here you have 1, so that means 2 bytes. For 010, so 2, so 2 raised to 2, 4 bytes. And here you can understand it like this. And if your data bus support 4 byte only, so you can pass up to 4 bytes of data only. You are not supposed to pass 2 raised to 3, or you are not supposed to use the H size greater than 010. Okay, I hope it is clear. Then we have H burst. So your H burst is also a 3 bit signal. From 000 to we have 111. Okay, now see, here your H burst indicate how many transfer are there in a burst and how the address increment. See, we are going to take a separate session in order to calculate the address increment, but here you can understand it like this. Let's suppose if you have one transaction and inside this transaction you have multiple transfer, so that multiple transfer is nothing but you are going to consider as it as a burst transfer. Okay, so if you have 000, that means you have single transfer burst. If you have 001, here there is undefined length of your burst. Here if you have 010, that means ref4, that means 4 packet you can send in a single transaction. Here in increment 4 also you can able to pass the 4 packet. Now for 100 you have rep8, so in rep8 you can allow to pass 8 bit of data, or you can say 8 packets. For 101 we also pass 8 packets. For 110 we can pass 16 packets, and similarly like this for 111 we can pass a 16 packet. Now see, here you can see we have rep as well as increment. So what does it mean by this rep and increment? So let's suppose we have rep as well as we have increment. So let's take example of increment 4 and ref 4. So in ref 4 your all the memory locations should be filled, or you can say here we have cache line memory. See, let me explain it in very simple term. So let's suppose you have started your data filling from here. Let's suppose this is your address, that is 24. So in rep 4 if you have reached up to this address, let's suppose this is 24, this is 25, this is 26, this is 27. If you have reached up to this address, then you can again go back to fill the next data into this location. Okay, so what does it mean by this? If you have started your data filling from address 24 and you have filled all the data and there is remaining one data, so you can wrap around on this memory location on your first memory location, and that is called your starting boundary and initial boundary. So you can fill your data in your initial boundary. So here your memory utilization is efficient. Okay, whereas in increment 4 you are not supposed to move back to your initial location. So if you have started your data filling from 24th so if you have started your data filling from 24th location, so you can go increment way. Okay, so you are not supposed to move back to fill in this location. So this location will always be empty in case of increment 4, whereas in rev 4 you are going to fill your data inside this memory location. Now see, here we have considered rev 4, so this location is not there, we only have 4 data, so this 4 location is there. Okay, I hope it is clear. See, if you still have any doubt, you can write your doubt in comment. I will definitely help you. Okay. Now then we have H-trans signal. So what does it means by the H-trans signal? So it indicates the transfer type, and this can be idle. So if you have 0 0, see your H-trans signal is of 2 bit of signal. So the maximum possible combination is 4 0 0 0 1 1 0, and then we have 1 1. For 0 0 we have idle case, for 0 1 we have BG case, for 1 0 we have non-sequential, and for 1 1 we have sequential. Now see, in idle situation, it indicates that no data transfer is required. A manager use an idle transfer when it does not want to perform any data transfer. So let's suppose your manager does not want to perform any data transfer. So in such case, you can consider your idle state. Okay. So in such case, your transfer type is idle, and in idle case, your subordinate will pass H response always 0. That means it will your subordinate will pass always OK response. Okay, in idle transfer. So if your H trans is 0 0, so that means it is an idle transfer, and in such case, your subordinate will pass H response always 0. That means OK response. Okay, okay, clear है? ठीक है, चलो. Then we have 0 1. So in 0 1 means BG is type. Okay, so 0 1 means BG transfer type. So here BG transfer type enables manager to insert idle cycle in the middle of a burst. So let's suppose your manager wants some time to continue the transfer. So manager will go into a BG state where you have to wait until and unless you are going to the non-sec or sec state. Okay, so see, BG is nothing but if your manager wants some time in order to complete the transfer, so it will go in your BG state. Here you can read this line. This transfer type indicate that, here you can see this transfer type indicate manager is continuing with a burst. So that means your burst is going on. So let's suppose you have 4 packet. So if you have 4 packet and you have completed 1 packet transfer. Okay, so this packet has been successfully transferred. Now you have to transfer this packet, but before that your manager wants some time. They are not transferring it immediately. So in such case your manager will go into a BG state. Okay, then we have non-sec. So see, here all the package which you have are associated with some address. So let's suppose here address is A1, and here address is A2, here address is A3, and here address is A4. Your all packet are associated with some address. Now in burst transfer, here your address A1 should be random. So you can consider any address for your first packet. Okay, so here address is independent, but for rest 3 transfer, your address is dependent on your previous transfer address. Okay, so let's suppose you have considered A1 address, that is 24. So the next address is dependent on your previous address. So let's suppose here your packet size is 1. Here your H size is 0 0 0. So that means your packet size is 1. So your next address should be 24 plus 1, that is 25. So here this address will become 25, and then your next address should be 25 plus 1, that is 26. So it will become 26, and this will become 27. Okay, so you can say that your first address is independent, or your first packet address is independent, but rest 3 are dependent on your previous address. Okay, so whenever you are sending your first packet, in such case you are there in non-sequential type. Okay, so whenever you are starting your transfer, at that time your transfer type is non-sequential. After completing one transfer, you can move into a sequential transfer type. Okay, So if you have just started your transfer, so your first transfer type is non-sequential, and for rest 3 your transfer type is sequential. Okay, I hope it is clear. So let me give you a quick recap. So suppose you have 4 packets. Okay, so let's suppose packet 1, packet 2, packet 3, and then we have packet 4. Okay, now all those packets are associated with some address. So the packet 1 has address A1, this have A2, here we have A3, here we have A4. Now see, your first packet address is independent. So here you have any address. So let's suppose we have passed any aligned address, that is 24. Okay, now your next packet address should dependent on your previous packet address. Now let's suppose your size of your packet is 1 only. So size of your packet is 1 byte. So the next address will become 24 plus 1, that is 25. So the next address should be 25. Now the next address will become 26, and here the next address will become 27. Okay, so this is how you can understand the H trans. Now in your first transfer or for your first packet, your transfer type is non-sec, and for rest packet your transfer type is sec. Okay, one more thing, let's suppose your master has completed transferring this packet 1. Now your master wants some time in order to transfer the remaining packet. So master will insert the transfer type BG in order to get some time before initiating or before passing this all the remaining packet. Okay, now it is clear. If it is clear, then do like this video. Okay. Then we have H response signal. So see, H response signal are driven by your slave or subordinate. So let's suppose this is your master and this is your subordinate. Let's suppose your transfer has completed. So your subordinate will pass either 0 or 1. So if your H response is 0, so that means all your transfer has either completed successfully or additional cycle are required. So, or you can say that whenever you are in BG state, so in that case your H response is 0, or whenever you have completed the successfully transfer, so in that case also your H response is 0. But if there is some error occurred during the transfer, in such case your H response is high. Okay, so your H response is 0 in 2 cases: whenever you have completed your successful transfer, so your transfer is done, and whenever you are in VG state. So keep this in mind. Okay, these two conditions are there where your H response is 0: whenever you have completed your successfully transfer and whenever you are in BG state. In both this situation you have H response that is 0, and whenever there is any error occurred in your transfer, so in such case you will get H response that is 1, which indicates error. Okay, and here H response 0 indicate okay. So I hope you have really enjoyed this video. If you have found this video useful, then do subscribe this channel and also share with your colleagues too. Okay, and in our upcoming video we are going to cover the rest part and also give your feedback. Okay, so based on your feedback we are going to modify our content. If there is any improvement in our content, so we are going to definitely work on it. Okay, so please do comment. Thank you.